Let's talk about the potential fight that we could have in the 147-pound division, because Teofimo Lopez, after that win in New York a couple of weeks ago, he is back in the middle of all the action. He is in the good graces of Turki Al-Sheikh, which is where you want to be if you're a contender or a champion at this level. Two options, it seems like, for Teofimo in his next fight. There's the Boots Ennis fight, which Turki seems to be behind. Boots, the unified champion, at 147. Teofimo still a title holder at 140, but has said like his body's growing and he needs to move up sooner rather than later. Or there's Devin Haney, who picked up a, let's be real, lackluster win on that same card. A lot of back and forth over the years between Teofimo and Devin Haney. Play matchmaker here for me. What's the fight that you would rather see? Teofimo against Boots or Teofimo against Devin?
I think it's obvious to say that as a fight fan, you want to see Teofimo Boots. I actually do want to see Teofimo Haney, though, because I think it's going to answer or dispel the things that the Haney camp is saying. We saw this performance in Times Square, and it definitely looked like Devin Haney wanted to avoid at all costs any indication of this left hook that Jose Ramirez was going to be throwing his way that devastated him when it was thrown by Ryan Garcia. So from the standpoint of Devin Haney is a 2-division champion, as is Teofimo Lopez, and there's interest in Devin Haney, does he still have it? Or is he, forever mentally wounded by what happened in the ring against Ryan Garcia? I think that's the fight that first and foremost I want to see, because the Boots Ennis fight would still be there. That said, obviously, if the interest is making the Boots Ennis fight right now, good, bring it on. Go ahead. If that's where your attention is right now, and you want that fight to occur because he is in the good graces, then there's a lot of it. That's going to be a fantastic fight, because Teofimo's going to bring his audience to that bout. Boots Ennis needs some more attention his way. He deserves it. We know the tremendous talent that he is. He showed that in his last fight against Stanionis. He's got 2 belts now. So this is a great opportunity for him. It's a no-lose situation, Chris, because Teofimo against either of these guys allows us to know so much more about each of the guys that he would be fighting.
Yeah, with all due respect to our friend Tim Bradley, who is bullish on Teofimo's chances to win a fight against Boots, I don't see it. I don't see it. I think Teofimo is a skilled guy. I think Boots is the right style for him, because Boots is going to come forward and look to get him out of there. But when those two guys get in the ring, and Boots without a rehydration clause at 147, there's just going to be such a big size difference. And this is not like an old guy with size. This is an in his prime welterweight who is coming off arguably the best performance of his professional career against a very good welterweight in Amantis Stanionis. I would make Boots a heavy favorite in that fight. Not to say that Teofimo is a lesser fighter, but at 147, I don't think there's anybody that beats Boots Ennis. I think the pressure he would put on him, the punches he would throw and land, it's just more, and they'd be bigger than anything that Teofimo has faced. I think Devin is a complicated fight for Teofimo as well, because he's not going to engage. Like, he's going to move. Maybe he doesn't use the ring as much as he did against Jose Ramirez, which he used every inch of it in that fight. But, is he going to be Sandor Martin-like? Maybe. And that caused Teofimo some problems. Is he going to do what Jermaine Ortiz did to cause Teofimo problems? Yeah, he might do that too. I mean, Arnold Barboza, I thought among his problems was he came forward too much, right? Like, I didn't think, but that's not Barboza's game. Like, Barboza, he wants you to come to him, and then so he can box more. That didn't happen in that fight against Teofimo. So if I'm Team Lopez, I'm pushing for that Haney fight. And look, if you're Haney, the Ryan Garcia fight, maybe that's off the table. Turki Al-Sheikh has suggested as much. That's a good fight for you as well. I am much more interested in seeing Teofimo against Devin. And look, if Teofimo beats Devin, maybe then we revisit the conversation about Boots. I'd rather see Boots wait until this Brian Norman, Jin Sasaki fight is over and take on Norman if he comes out of the fight with his belt. Because that to me is a more interesting fight.
I know. I agree with something my friend over at Pro Box TV, Chris Algieri, was saying though. He's like, there's something about the Lopez's, father and son. They have no problem hesitating when they see a matchup that they like. They
Mm,
go at it, and it was remember they went to Lomachenko.
mm,
They wanted that fight. They wanted. I mean, yes, he was. Josh Taylor was a little bit exposed by Catterall, but they went to that fight as well and won that fight pretty convincingly. Um, Arnold Barbosa came into this last fight, on the heels of some very close decisions, and it looked pretty good. And there was a lot of questions about Teofimo, and he won that as well convincingly.
mm.
So the fact that he's wanting it, I think is very interesting to me because it's like these guys spot something that maybe like my eyes aren't sophisticated enough to see, but there's something about the matchup that they like. And I'd love to see this play out and find out exactly what it is.
And they get up for these types of fights. Where Teofimo has struggled is in fights that he has not really been up for. I don't think he was up for the Kambosos stuff. His outside the ring stuff, notwithstanding, health issues notwithstanding. I don't think he was up for it anyway. He had a really hard time making weight for that fight. Jermaine, Sandro Martin, nobody really gets up for it. Like,
Right.
that's just the bad style. And Jermaine Ortiz, I don't think that he was up for it. Steve Claggett, I don't think he was up for it. When he's been up for fights against marquee guys, whether it's Josh Taylor or this blood feud he had with Arnold Barboza, he tends to shine. I just think stylistically, Devin is just all wrong for him. I think Teofimo was going to really struggle to track down Devin Haney and land effectively. Now, Devin may not be able to hang in there with Teofimo either. He may not be willing to step to Teofimo in the same way step to like Regis Prograis a year or so ago, but I don't know. I'm just more. I'm just not. I don't. I mean, do you see the Boots fight being competitive? If like, do you see what they might see in chasing Boots Ennis?
I don't see what they might see, but I know that they see something, and I think that's because you're right. They're not saying Haney. They're not talking about Haney.
Mm.
They don't want that fight. And Bill Haney talked to us over on Saturday and said as much. Like basically he's calling out the fight left and right because he really wants it. And he's like, why won't they pay attention to us? Well, it's because they don't want that fight.
Mm.
And look, I think that Teofimo Lopez is active enough and astute enough and shrewd enough as a boxer to make it a competitive match against Boots Ennis, despite the significant size differences. I think that he's going to be tested, like you said, and I think he's going to be motivated, and it'll bring out the best in him. And I think that's what we've always wanted to see from Teofimo Lopez, right? Is because we've seen him before so many times.
I'm just telling these guys, a rehydrated Boots is huge. He's just huge, like that. Because and look that unification fight with Stanionis, where he didn't have to go along with that IBF rehydration rule because it was unification.
Uh-huh.
That was the biggest I've ever seen him in the ring.
Yeah.
Like he goes up 20 pounds easily. So that's it's a bit careful what you wish for. I think with Teofimo, but
Look, I'm all for it, though. I think you'll agree, Chris. I'm all for the stock of Boots Ennis rising.
mm,
I mean, he's a great fighter. We've covered a lot of his growth throughout the years, and he deserves where he's headed. And so I think this fight would bring him that.
yeah, if you're Boots, I get it. If they come to you and say, "Here's a pile of money, no rehydration clause, 147, put your belts on the line," you don't seem to be quite ready to go to 154. Norman fighting Sasaki this summer tables that probably until the fall. It's a paycheck. I get it. To me, in the ring, Haney versus Teofimo is more intriguing than Teofimo versus Boots. That's kind of where I come down on all of it.